and welcome to Offstage. My name is Chamonix Beer, and in this episode, we will be talking to John and Ryan from the Shabs. But before we start this episode, let's just first listen to their track called Can You Hear Us at the Back?
Sitting on a pavement outside, a house that really looks like it could be home. No one's home, they've all gone away on holiday and left us behind. Promise me you'll sit here and sing the words to our favorite teenage songs that I forgot. I'll just play guitar and harmonize until we blow our voices out, and every word becomes a faded squeaky shout. Can you hear us at the back? Can you hear us at the back? We're screaming as loud as we can. Can you hear us at the back? Can you hear us at the back? We're screaming as loud as we can. Can you hear us at the back? Can you hear us at the back? We're screaming as loud as we can. We're screaming as loud as we can. So it looks like I'll be spending the night, even though I don't have my sleeping bag, my backpack, my toothbrush, toothpaste, socks and boxer shorts, and still be sleeping in the car. And if you stay, I'll pour you a drink. We can raise a glass and have time. We watched our favorite band and then formed a band so we could be like them and blow our voices out. Can you hear us at the back? Can you hear us at the back? We're screaming as loud as we can. Can you hear us at the back? Can you hear us at the back? We're screaming as loud as we can. Can you hear us at the back? Can you hear us at the back? We're screaming as loud as we can. We're screaming as loud as we can. I know you'll leave before we play, but you still came. And I don't mind, time is finite, I'll find that out someday. We'll mix metaphors with chords we have to play. I tried convince the kids we still have things to say. Can you hear us at the back? 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 We're screaming as loud as we can. Can you hear us at the back? Can you hear us at the back? We're screaming as loud as we can. Can you hear us at the back? Can you hear us at the back? We're screaming as loud as we can. Can you hear us at the back? Can you hear us at the back? We're screaming as loud as we can. So please don't leave without us.
Hi guys, welcome to Offstage.
Hi.
Hey, thanks for having us.
It's such a pleasure. So tonight we are talking to John and Ryan. So what is your role in the band?
I'm John. I am the frontman. I sing and play guitar.
And I am Ryan. I play bass and backing vocals.
That's so cool. So obviously you guys have more members in the band. So can you tell us a bit about them as well?
Sure. So we also have a drummer named John as well, John Case. And then Sophie, Ryan's wife, also plays in the band, and she sings and plays a bit of melodica and stuff like that. And then we also have a couple of other sundry members who join us when we're touring or if they're around. And the one's name is Angela. She lives up in Johannesburg. She also sings and plays melodica and a little bit of guitar. And then Richard Case, who's John's older brother, plays pedal steel and lead guitar.
That's amazing how many members you have involved with this band. So how did all of you meet?
Well, the core of the band for its existence has been John and I. We started as a trio with a previous drummer, Tom, and then we were just a duo for a while. So the way the band kind of works is that it can be anything from just the two of us to like 8 of us. Probably our most common format that we like to do is a 4-piece or a trio if we can, at least. So we have guitar, bass, and drums, and it's kind of full. But John and I have known each other for years and years. We were at high school together. We didn't really meet so much because of high school, though. We just met at punk shows. I think we started playing in a band together called Captain Stew. It was a ska band. John played saxophone and I played bass guitar. And that was when I was about 15 and he was about 16. So that was a pretty long time ago, about 17 years ago or so.
Yeah, 18 years ago now.
18 years ago. And then our drummer, John Case, at a very similar time, when we were still teenagers, John used to play in a band with him called Armor for Nightmares. And I used to play in like a fusion jazz drum and bass band with him called Wednesday's Child. So, we also knew him just from punk shows and stuff. And my wife, Sophie, John actually was friends with her beforehand. She was a mutual friend of one of John's school friends who had lived in England and then moved over from the States. Angela, who plays with us up in Joburg and usually in Europe. She is... She used to play in a band called Japan and I, a really great all-female punk trio. We used to gig with them years ago with Captain Stew, and then more recently she also plays in a band called Rambling Bones, who we released a split album with two or 3 years ago. And actually on the launch of that album, Sophie couldn't make some of the shows, so Angela started filling in for Sophie's stuff. And then John Case's brother lives in Hamburg. So the first time we toured Europe, we met him, and I think we've been back to Europe we've been to Europe 5 times, hey John?
Yeah, 5 times for 4.5.
The fifth time was when it got cancelled a quarter of the way through. But Richard just started jumping on more and more songs as we were around Europe. And then he lives in Hamburg, but he sometimes visits his family here. So we gig with him a lot when we're in Europe, but he's also played some gigs with us in South Africa when he's been down to visit his family. So that's how we all know each other, mostly through music.
I mean, that's how we all, at the end of the day, get to know each other. And I mean, it's such a cool story from how the band also grew to so many new members. And with also being said, you mentioned you guys touring Europe for 4.5 times. So how did it get to that point where you guys were able to tour overseas?
I think, we were quite lucky with Captain Stew. We managed to do one international tour to Australia, which was a really cool experience, but a bit of a mess. We learned a lot. We made a lot of mistakes, which is always important playing in a band. But, I think the market for the kind of music we play is just, to be honest, not that big in South Africa. I think, specifically me, a couple of years back, I was getting very kind of like itchy feet to leave Cape Town for a while. I just quit my job, which I wasn't enjoying at all. And I didn't really know what was coming next, but I knew I was going to stay in South Africa, but I also just wanted to get out of town for a while. So I booked a trip for as long as my visa would allow me to go, basically. And I left South Africa for 3 months. And as part of that 3 months, Ryan was able to come over as well. And we just kind of went on a little exploring mission around Europe, cashing in on some contacts that we had made over the years, either through Captain Stew or, Ryan was lucky enough to do some international touring before that, filling in for some other bands. And, I had booked some stuff in Cape Town and the rest of South Africa for some other bands from Europe. And we just kind of basically had this very small network to just help us find enough kind of like anchor points to justify just going on a little bit of a road trip. And luckily we were able to borrow a car from Ryan's father-in-law. And we drove from England out into Europe, and we spent about 6 weeks, I think, just driving around, zigzagging around Europe, like most unreasonable tour routes known to man.
We knew that Europe wasn't that big, but it wasn't as small as we thought it was.
Yeah. But we had also played gigs with other artists from around the world who'd spent some time in Europe, and we just basically just reached out to a bunch of people within the network and found some cool opportunities. And then we were lucky that we found them, and then we just filled the gaps however and wherever we could, and we just went on an adventure, really. And through that we met some awesome people who were like very involved in live music around the various countries, and started to build more personal relationships with them. Some of them have become like family to us, you know, like some of our closest friends. And yeah, like every year we go back, the tours seem to, you know, kind of hone themselves a little bit better. We get to focus on the cool opportunities, and we're still making mistakes all the time, which is it's all part of the experience. Every year there's just like a nice little opportunity for us to go to Europe, reconnect with our fans that side, spend some time outside of Cape Town, which is always nice to just kind of like refresh perspective on things.
And we've been building it slowly. It's been nice to see, because we're, you know, we don't go over there and play to thousands and thousands of people, but every year we steadily get an increase. And as well as increasing the fans, like John's saying, every year we expand our network of friends, fellow musicians, people who we can gig with or who can help us organize gigs. And really at the core of it, I think the essence of, you know, how we were able to go over there in the first place that John touched on is that both John and I, especially John, have always been quite good at keeping in contact with musicians we've met along the way. And you know, we've both been playing music, you know, I like on the stage for about 18 years or something. And our first European tour was 4 years ago or so. So, you know, we'd already been playing gigs for a long time. So, you know, one of the guys that booked us a gig in Switzerland was a drummer of a band where the bassist used to play in a ska band that toured to South Africa a decade before that our old band had played with. And, you know, John had kept in touch with that guy. And, you know, like he'd mentioned, I'd toured with them. It was with Hog Hoggity Hog, filling in for their bassist. And I met a trombone player from Czech Republic, and him and I had just kept in contact on Facebook and swapped music. You know, we were able to connect with these people. And John has booked a few tours for people we've met over there who've then come to South Africa, or he had booked tours for people before in South Africa. So I think it's that network of staying in contact and not just you know, trying to use it for our own gain. Like we genuinely, like John was saying, some of these people are like family to us now, and we try to genuinely build that network and stay in contact with the people, whether they can book us a show or not, you know, and it just helps us kind of organically grow our impact there.
So with that all being said, I mean, you guys have met so many people and inspired so many new musicians, especially overseas. So what would you say is the most important part of networking? So yes, of course, networking itself is very important, but in a way, how you approach people is also very different. So how would you say you need to approach people, and how would you guys say that it has helped you over the years?
I think, I mean, that's a pretty tough question to like just pinpoint an answer to. But I think, like in general, it's just important to like, you know, be yourself. And when I say that, I mean like whatever persona you like exude from the stage, I think needs to accurately portray like who you are as a person. And I think that helps, you know, it helps you connect with people in a more honest and like authentic way, I think. And, you know, like, because we're also not like this big band who, like Ryan said, we're not playing to thousands of people, even in our hometown. We're playing, you know, like, you know, we play some nice shows every once in a while, but they're not so big that there's this like big disconnect between the audience and us. Like it's very intimate usually, and we thrive off that. I mean, that's something that we really love. You know, we also have time for people to like stand after the show at the merch table, especially when we're traveling. It's like such an awesome way to meet people, you know, to engage with people through your music, but at the same time, like that, it just fast forwards like a personal connection, because you already know that these people, that they're either there to support you because they've heard you before, or maybe they've been dragged to the gig by someone else who's heard your music, or maybe they're just there by coincidence. But the one thing that you all have in common already is that you all love live music, and you're all in the same room, and like having a good time. And it offers like some personal connection, you know?
But I think also, you know, like we touched on before, it's about that connection not being forced and not being one-sided, because everyone in the music industry can spot a mile away that person who just wants to meet them so that they can gain something from that relationship. And, you know, you obviously have to be, you know, stay in contact with people, and you've got to be strategic in things, but you've got to allow the networks to grow organically, which means, like we're saying, not only, you know, making it a two-way street or a conversation, not just a, you know, when you meet someone, it's like, oh, here's my band and this and this and this. It's like, you meet them and you chat, and it's like, okay, how can we help each other? Or, you know, what do we have in common? But also about letting the connections that you have grow organically, because John and I have been lucky enough to meet and make music with people who are 10 tiers above us in success, and it's not just about saying to, our friend who plays in the Lumineers, oh, can we open for the Lumineers? Because, we know that we're not, we're not there, and it's like, okay, you have these connections, but it's sort of right place, right time, and you have to let that be organic and not forced, and not, like, okay, I'm networking so I can get ahead, and I want to meet this person in this band so that I can open for his band. Maybe you want to meet the person in that band because you love their music, and you'd love to just say, hey man, I love your music. What songwriters inspire you? As opposed to, hey man, I play in a band. Can we open for you? It's like, that's not a very engaging conversation for someone who meets, those big bands, and even, smaller touring bands that, they meet a lot of people, and they can immediately tell if you're just trying to make a connection for your own good.
Exactly. And I mean, there's a lot of people that I don't know how to put this without sounding really rude, but there's a lot of people that are willing to step on others just to get at the top. And sometimes that's like a really bad way of doing it, because you need to keep the bridge, because someday you might want to, like, and not just that, I mean, for local artists especially, we want to help each other, and we should help each other. I mean, there's nothing wrong with just helping a fellow band.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, of course, like Ryan, we've been helping bands for, I mean, as long as we've been playing music. I mean, we're both like kind of in our mid-ish 30s now. And when we were still teenagers, like touring bands from around the country were staying with us when we were still living with our parents, sleeping on couches. We've driven bands back and forth to airports like more times than I can remember.
But we've had the same from other bands.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I was about to say that, but that, like that, karma's at our backs. We like, when we go away, we are so at the mercy of other people who contribute to the scene in the ways that we have, and it's awesome. It's a really, really cool way to give back and get back at the same time.
Definitely. So this has, like, I have so many questions right now in regards to this. So who is the first band that you allowed to sleep on your couch, and how did your parents feel about this? Because obviously as a kid you're like, Mom, this adult's gonna sleep over, are you cool with that? So how did that happen?
I don't know, Ryan, who were the first? Maybe, like, I think it was like before City Ball Misers. Maybe it was like Sibling Rivalry, or
yeah, I think
what was the other one from Durban? Sheepdown. It might have been those guys.
Yeah, probably like the Sheepdown and Sibling Rivalry. And look, luckily at the time, the other bands were a pretty similar age to us.
Yeah, so, the Sheepdown guys were maybe a little bit older.
Yeah.
Like
but the
brothers,
Sibling guys were also, the Sibling Rivalry guys were also teenagers, so it wasn't that weird. And so that was good. It's like, the bands, when we started making music, it was people who were 15, 16, 17 were much more into live music than 15, 16, 17-year-olds are now. And that's not a better or worse thing. That's just, it was like that. So, it was actually quite common to have, a band touring down from Joburg or something, and everyone in the band's a teenager. Maybe one of them's 18 and he's the guy who can drive. But, so it kind of bridged that gap. I remember the Tidal Waves guys sleeping at my mom's house. But by that stage, she was so used, she was like, oh, it didn't really.
The Tidal Waves are definitely like the oldest guys we've had stay. We flew them down for a Captain Stu album launch, I think in 2008. And we had done some touring with them already, but I think I was already living out of home, but I think, Ryan, a couple of them stayed at your mom's house. Yeah.
That is so crazy. So I have a few questions I have two questions. So the first question that I have for you from one of your fans is Natuurlijk Wim, because he referred you guys, which I'm so happy about. So Wim's question, it's like 5 in 1. Okay, so just bear with me. Wim's question is, what is the best gig you guys have ever had? What was it? Where was it? Why? And how?
I mean, we've had a lot of amazing shows, but the one highlight, I think, was we played at this festival in the Czech Republic called Mighty Sounds in 2018. We played 2 sets. The first set was a full band, proper stage set where we had like a 10 p.m. slot maybe or something. It was a pretty good gig.
On a Friday, I think it was the Friday night.
Yeah, it was a Friday night. It was really, really cool. I mean, it was one of the auxiliary stages. It wasn't the main stage, but it was still like a packed out marquee and like amazing gig. And it was the last night of a month-long tour. And we just gave everything to that show, and we were asked after that to do an acoustic set at this like other little stage. And so I think around midnight we went and we set up to do this acoustic set, and it was just like a freakish turnout. Like 500-600 people rocked up to this tiny little stage, and we just had the most like amazing gig playing like an acoustic set, which was rowdy as fuck, but it was yeah,
they wouldn't let us get off the stage.
It just wouldn't. I mean, we must have gotten asked for like 5 or 6 encores. They wouldn't let us leave the stage. It was the last night of tour, and like we were just so tired and drained, and like it was so emotionally overwhelming. Angela was in tears, like tears of joy, and like we were all just like fucking feeling the love so hard at that gig. It was really, really cool experience.
Yeah,
that one stands out for me for sure.
And that's so that was the when and the where. The how, I think, was what was cool about that is also we had like the full 5-piece band for the first one, and then like John said, we had an acoustic. And that festival is through our good friend Vtech in the Czech Republic, in Prague, who I met in 2012 when I was touring with Hog Hoggity Hog. Their bassist Sean couldn't make the tour because his dad was ill and he had to stay in South Africa and look after him. So I filled in for him. I met Vtech, and back then, I remember we did like a hard drive music swap. Like I had my hard drive and I gave him the music on my from my hard drive, and he gave me his, and we just stayed in contact. And then the first time we went in 2016, he managed to get us on Mighty Sounds. So this was actually the second time we played Mighty Sounds. So the first time was just John and I in 2016, and then so that was also really great. It was like now our second. The first time was also, to date, like I think at that stage was also the best gig we'd ever played, and then it was so great to come back with a full band and to see the following there had grown. And yeah, that was definitely a highlight.
That sounds like it was amazing. Like just how everything panned out for you guys. Dis ongelooflik. So the second question that I have for you, and this one is desk tapping dude.
Yeah.
So I just actually want to get his name, but first of all, his question is, what is your biggest songwriting inspiration?
As a band, I think it's difficult to answer that question because we like all individually have varied tastes in music. I speak for myself. I mean, I think like Frank Turner is definitely one of my favorite songwriters and a pretty big inspiration. The way that he kind of blends this kind of alternative punk rock attitude with like, more classic singer-songwriter kind of approach to music. But, like I think that over the years, like all the music we've listened to has influenced us in some ways, so it also depends on what we're listening to at the time. Like, a song I write tomorrow might sound like something I've been listening to for the last month. And then when I write a song in 6 months' time, it might sound more similar to something that I've been listening to then, So, I mean, long story short, like Frank Turner is one of my favorite songwriters. Another guy named Eric Peterson, also amazing songwriter. And, all this stuff, like I used to, and I still love them. I think Paul Simon is one of the most brilliant songwriters of all time. I listened to that growing up, and I still revisit it every once in a while. But yeah, I'm like a sucker for lyrics for sure, me personally.
I think John and I both really like John K. Samson as well.
Yes, very much so.
He's a big one. And from the Weaker Thans, who's now also done solo stuff. One of my favorite songwriters is Don Darnell, who's the singer from Mountain Goats. And I think John and I also both like probably one of the songwriters that influenced us the most when we were kids is probably Fat Mike from NoFX. His kind of very like real like lyricism as well, like, singing about no matter how kind of nitty gritty and kind of abrasive a subject matter can be, just sort of approaching it like with honesty.
Exactly. And that also comes through with the music that you guys make. So I think it's such a great thing to have all the people that have inspired you and they have such a great impact on the music that you guys make today.
Well, yeah, I mean, for sure. I'm just
What's that, right? Oh, I was just going to say, like, I mean, I hope that if any of them ever heard our songs, they'd be like, oh, these guys are ripping me in a good way.
Yeah, it's good to hear from the fans.
The next question that I have for you is, as a band, sometimes it is difficult, okay, let's all be real, because I've heard from quite a couple of people that being in a band is like being married to like 3 other people, because there's a lot of responsibility that goes into this. But as a band, what would you guys say was the most difficult thing, or the biggest obstacle, can we say, for you guys as a touring band?
Oh, I mean, straight off the bat, like finances is like a really tough thing to manage.
Yeah.
And, you know, like touring is a very, very expensive exercise, because when you've got to book flights for 3 or 4 people, visa costs, car rental deposits, and then just have a little bit in the pocket for when you get there so you can afford to eat for like the first night or two before you start gigging. I mean, you're outlaying, you know, 70,000 rand like straight away, you know, like, I don't know, obviously depends how long you're going for and all that stuff. But, you know, you got to have that money.
I mean, the biggest physical challenge was probably when on the third European tour, when our car broke down before the first gig. And, you know, because of what John is saying, before you've played that first gig, you're not sitting at zero, you're sitting at a huge debt. You know, you only start to break even halfway through, even more. So before our very first gig, the van broke. It couldn't be repaired. It wasn't our van. We hadn't made a cent over there yet. So you know, we had to figure out how to recover from that. So that was probably one of the biggest. And then the second was probably this tour, where a quarter of the way through the tour, the real brunt of the COVID epidemic hit. I mean, you know, we were gigging through all the way through March as supposed to, and we only played 6 of the gigs. And in the space of about 48 hours, every other gig got cancelled. We couldn't get the tour van back to Czech Republic because the border was closed. My double bass is still in Europe. I couldn't bring it home because we couldn't get through the border to get the flight case. So that was also, and then, you know, again, like John said, finances were huge, but we did a crowdfunding for that at the beginning of the year, and it was amazing. We managed to raise about 80,000 rand to help us get out of the debt.
That's amazing, because I know that you guys have a great fan base, especially with all the stuff that you guys have been busy with, and like you just said, the crowdfunding. So it's amazing to see that you guys have very loyal fans. And I think as a band, that's really important, because you want people to be your fans, not just like, oh yeah, I've listened to that song maybe once or twice.
No, we like appreciate our fans a lot. And that experience at the beginning of the year was a wild one to experience. But I mean, the community around us really got us out of this hole, and we're super, super appreciative and grateful for all of that support that we got earlier this year.
Yeah, we didn't think that we could appreciate and love our fans any more than we already do. Yeah. Because we've, you know, like we've mentioned a few times, we've been doing this for a long time. So we understand, you know, when you first start playing in a band as a teenager, it's really fun for all of your friends, and you get that. But when you've been doing this for almost 20 years, you really appreciate how much it means to someone for them to actually give you their time to like come to your show, you know, pay entrance to see you. We never take that for granted. You know, we have good shows and bad shows, but we're always committed to the fact that somebody has given their time, and then even if it's a free show, but you know, their time and their money to come and watch us, you know, and that we've never taken that responsibility lightly. You know, we try to give everything we have, you know, in sincerity as well as energy, as well as just musical proficiency. We try to never take our fans for granted. And yeah, that would, like John said, the beginning of this year was just a massive reminder, like even more so, you know, we're surrounded by a lot of love, and we really appreciate that.
So if you guys can motivate upcoming musicians and people who are already musicians, what would you say to motivate them in just doing what they want to do and aspiring to their dream?
A piece of advice that I usually give at this point in the conversation is like, I just like to encourage musicians to support each other more. And I think through doing that, everyone will keep and get more motivated to like do what they're doing, you know? Also, it's important to never have unrealistic expectations out of what we do. It's really tough out there, but you know, there are balances you can find in life to make it work to your advantage in conjunction with something else that might you might be good at, or you might want to, maybe you're not so good at, but you do well at it or something. I don't know, like whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think like the thing that the music industry really needs the most is just musicians to support each other, because through doing that, like the rest will hopefully come naturally, you know. I mean, if a musician, if I'm going to go watch a friend's band and I take another 2 friends with me that haven't seen them before, I mean, that's like amazing, you know. If there are a couple of people doing that a weekend, then that's great. And we're not perfect at it. I mean, I know I'm not. I mean, I try as much as I can to uplift the music industry in this country, but you know, it's like as Ryan said, like we all, you know, we've all got other stuff going on, and it's tough to find the time always. But you know, that's what I would say, to motivate musicians out there, like just support each other, build networks, you know, make friends, and I think the rest will just kind of come from that.
Yeah, so, something I think is important as well is if you decide to make music and share it with the world, really make sure you're making the music you want to make and that you believe in it, because it's the most volatile industry in the world. You know, 0.0001% of people actually can make a career out of creating original music. So if you go into it wanting to succeed, like, you know, maybe you can, but most of the time you're not going to be the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So when you're out there and you've been on tour for a month and you know you're playing in front of 10 people, make sure that you're playing the music that you love, because if you're not playing the music you love and you're still playing in front of 10 people, then there's really no point. But if you're playing the music you love, I mean, we've played some amazing gigs to 10 people. We've had a great time. They've had a great time, you know?
Cool, guys. Thank you so much for just talking to you and taking time off your busy schedule. And honestly, I can't wait to see what you guys do next. And hopefully we'll keep in touch and just come and watch your shows.
Yeah, it'd be great. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah,
It's such
sure.
a pleasure, guys.